Hey guys, my name is Caitlin. Welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking about my fall TBR. I have a big stack of books here, and I'm classifying fall as between now and Thanksgiving. I feel like after Thanksgiving is when winter and Christmas books start to happen. So I guess I'll see if I can read all this. This is a lot. So the first book on my TBR I actually already finished, and it's Night Shift by Stephen King. You could tell by the cracked spine that it is fully complete. I originally bought this because my favorite Halloween scary movie is Children of the Corn. I don't really have words to describe it. It's just a very poorly filmed movie, and it's honestly hilarious. So go watch it if you don't like movies that are super scary, but you still want to get into the fall vibes. That movie is actually based on a short story that Stephen King wrote, and it's in this collection. And I never read Stephen King before. I didn't really have any sort of expectations, but honestly, I loved this. There are 20 different short stories in here, and they're all scary, but in different ways. For example, The Children of the Corn is about this couple, and they're driving through Nebraska, and there's just corn everywhere. And this child is like thrown into the road. The couple hits the kid, and they get out of the car and they notice his throat is slashed. So they want to bring the kid to a police station or a hospital, but there's really nothing around for miles. So they go to this small town called Gatlin, and it's pretty much just overrun by kids who killed all their parents in the name of God, and the couple ends up dying. So it's basically like a religious horror short story, which are my favorite. There's also a story in here about Jerusalem's Lot, and Stephen King has a novel called Salem's Lot. I don't know what came first. I don't know if the first story didn't make the cut or it was just like an added thing, but that's also more of a religious horror story. We also have a story called The Mangler, which is about a possessed industrial machine that is eating people and crushing people. There's a story about mutant rats. There's a story about a smoker who wants to quit smoking. So he's referred to this company called Quitters Inc. And the reason this company's success rate is so high for smokers quitting is because if they find out that you're smoking, they'll torture you and your family. There's also another story about crazy boyfriends, an alcoholic who drinks a beer and turns to gray sludge and starts to eat people. They all had such different themes and were about such different things, which was surprising because I feel like with a lot of authors, they kind of stick to what they know. But I feel like Stephen King did a really good job of just writing about different horrifying things. So this was a great read. I gave it 4 stars. If you're looking to get into Stephen King, this might be a good place to start. I really want to read Salem's Lot now, as well as Carrie and The Shining. So I'm very happy with this. Next, the book I want to read, especially before Halloween, is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I'm not going to stay on this book too long. We all kind of know what Frankenstein is about. I have not read it, and I've had it on my shelf for about 2 years. So I really want to read this year, and it's only about 200 pages, so I think it's doable. The next book on my TBR is the quintessential fall book. It is a dark academia book. It is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I feel like everyone on this planet has read this book and they either love it or hate it. I actually started reading this a little bit. I'm about 20 pages in, and I like it so far. I was a little nervous because I started reading The Goldfinch a few years back, also by Donna Tartt, and I could not get into it. I don't remember if it was the plot or Tartt's writing style, but I just didn't like it. I DNF'd it. So I was a little nervous to pick this up, but I feel like I keep seeing it. I had to give it a go. So from what I know about this book, it's set in Vermont at a small college, and our narrator, Richard, He's trying to get into this Greek classics class, but the professor for that class is very picky. He only has 4 or 5 students in his class and doesn't want to accept Richard. But Richard's still trying, and this group of students, they're very secluded, they're very private and secretive. They kind of have isolated themselves from the rest of their peers. And yeah, I guess that's all I know. I do like it so far. I like the plot, I like the writing style. We also have in the prologue a murder, and I guess throughout the book we'll uncover who murdered, I think Bunny. I think it's Bunny. Yeah, I guess Bunny. Who murdered Bunny and what happened there and the events that culminated in his murder. But who knows, maybe Donna Tartt just put it in the prologue and we're not going to talk about it again. I don't know. But yeah, that's The Secret History. And now what I'm currently reading, which I've already talked about a little bit, is The Idiot by Dostoevsky. I realized I didn't really talk about it in the last video. I just kind of said I was reading it, but I didn't go into the plot. We follow Prince Mishkin. He is coming back home to Russia after being in a sanatorium in Switzerland, and he doesn't really have a place to stay. So he finds kind of like a long lost relative, and we're following him and I guess his journey in Russia now. And Prince Mishkin is considered the idiot, and he's classified as an idiot because he speaks very plainly. He doesn't really speak like the other more aristocratic government officials in Russia. He speaks very plain, which I kind of like because just the language is easier to understand in this book compared to other Dostoevsky books and other 19th century Russian lit. So I'm about 100 pages in, and Prince Mishkin just moved in with Gavrila or Ganya, and we're kind of just meeting his family, meeting the tenants in the apartment. Nothing crazy has happened yet. A big plot point in this book is Prince Mishkin ends up in a love triangle. And apparently there's also a murder at the end of the book. I really don't know who dies. Part of me thinks it's gonna be Prince Mishkin. Part of me thinks it's gonna be Nastasia Filipovna. She's the woman in the love triangle. But I really don't know. I'm excited to find out. The next book that I'm gonna read in October, it's not scary or spooky, but it is my Shakespeare play for the month. It is Coriolanus, and Coriolanus follows the Roman War between the aristocrats and the common people. There's a famine going on, and there's this man named Caius, and he's fighting on the side of the aristocrats of the Roman army, and he leads them to victory. So they crown him with the title Coriolanus. I don't know if that means he's like a king or an emperor at this point, or like what this title really means. But I think throughout the play, he gets in over his head. He gets a big ego, and he does not want to reconcile with the common people. I do believe at the end he does want to make peace, but the commoners kill him. So, I mean, that's pretty standard in Shakespeare that like the main character dies. So I wouldn't be surprised. But there is murder. So I guess that falls into the spooky autumn category. And also just like, look at this cover. Like, I love the purple and blue. It is so pretty. If you didn't know, I am reading a Shakespeare play every month for this year. I have really stuck to that goal. And I feel like now I'm getting into the more lesser known works of Shakespeare, which is exciting. But yeah, we have Coriolanus. And lastly, we have Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. So I didn't realize that Jane Eyre was a Gothic novel. Like, to be honest, outside of Russian literature, like, I don't really know much about like other literature. Like, I just don't. I have read Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and I loved it so much. I feel like everyone loves that book, and rightly so. So Jane grows up very lonely, I think in an abusive household. That affects her negatively as she grows up, as you know, you might think. But she becomes a governess of Thornfield Hall, and she falls in love with this man named Rochester. I do think Jane and Rochester end up together in the end. I'm not 100% sure, so like don't tell me if you've read this. But I don't know, I heard it was a gothic novel. So I don't think this is gonna be like a spooky story or something like horrifying, but it's just gonna be following a character who's been through a lot. And I guess it'll have like all those gloomy vibes. That's my fall TBR. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you're reading this fall, and if you've read any of these books, let me know if you like them or not. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.